Good afternoon. So, have you ever thought about one thing, that if you are writing the first book ever, how many copies would you be able to sell? Well, it all happened that there is a book that sold millions of copies within no time, within a couple of days of its release. Can I just have the, yeah. So, millions of copies if getting sold within a couple of days of its release, definitely it must be something very unique. And what happened here was, there was just a small spelling mistake in a particular word that actually did that. The writer was not at all gifted, in fact, at all. So, what we see here, this is a joke actually that I read a couple of days before, and I wanted to put this in perspective. And simply because it shows us that if you are addressing to a bigger problem, I'm not a male chauvinist though, but if you're addressing to a bigger problem, then there certainly would be millions of takers worldwide. Well, Homo sapiens is the name given to the human beings. And Homo sapiens means man as a thinking animal. Now, what this thought process has done to the humankind is that it has conceptualized ideas every now and then. Right since the days of the human evolution, when it all started, right from fire to farming, and now from mobile to the computers to the internet. It is all happening and changing lives like it has never had before, and it is evolving. Still it is evolving. Now what happened in fact in the older days, that the fire took thousands of years. In fact, the human took thousands of years with the fire to realize that the fire which was already there, and they were already understanding the controlled usage of the fire, which was all about keeping the wild animals away and also about the keeping themselves warm. That the same fire could also be used in terms of cooking food. But now it is very fast. It is not the same evolution over hundreds of years of age. What is happening is we have moved on from those things to constant evolution, and we are like talking about the virtual reality, the augmented reality, and now we are talking about the Internet of Things. And literally it is a power given in every single person's pocket with the Internet in his mobile, that he can actually cross the boundaries the way he wants and the moment he wants. And right from 2G to 3G to 4G, I really believe that if ever human will be getting the 11 point some G of velocity, escape velocity, it will be only because of his mobile phone. And definitely, if it happens, it just might be an idea to worth reckon. Now, this is a picture which is a classic situation in a country like India, where there is a lot of water problem, and also in many countries which is having a similar problem as India. Now, this woman every day might have to walk from between 2 to 10 miles, making 6 to 7 trips per day in bringing one commodity called water to survive. However, it takes, in fact, a lot of resources and a lot of money to make this water available in all the villages and all those places which are distant from this water thing. It also results in many challenges to this woman. One of them is obvious, which is health. And the second one is also that they could not contribute to their economy otherwise. Why? Because if the time consumed here is like 6 to 7 hours, which is what maximum it could go to, certainly that is not happening. And also, they're not being able to give this quality time to their children and in terms of the development. The problem is more with the younger women, younger girls rather, who are unable to get educated, because this exactly is the time, in fact, that they should have been spending in the school. Well, I showed two of the figures over there, in fact, the fire and the internet that I talked about, but there was a wheel in the middle. So somebody from somewhere came out of nowhere to rescue these women, and this has been one of the greatest discoveries, which is a chance discovery that happened, and this is called as water bucket. Now, this water wheel, what it does is allowing them, in fact, to just take one trip. Why? Because earlier they were taking some 4 to 5 to 6 trips, and each time they were doing it, it was 10 to 15 liters of water that they were carrying. Now, right now, what they could do is to carry 50 liters of water, and 70% of the women living in those kind of places where it's not a rough terrain, they could actually, make use of it, and which is buying them a lot of time, which is saving a lot of part of their health, in fact, which was being lost. Now, what happens here is, we understand that if we put the right things in perspective, then what might happen is that even the simplest of the things that have been known since ages long could be made to use like this, and it could change millions of lives within no time. Now, what happens here is how these eureka moments happen, how these chance discoveries happen. We need to understand that fairly well. Now, we don't live in one world. We live in two worlds, definitely. One is the world that we live in, which we identify living in, and we measure that time in space thing, and there is a tangible thing that happens, and the reaction of that thing happens each time we respond to that world, which is outside. And there is an equally bigger world inside, within us, which we actually actually fail to identify those. And it is equally bigger, it is equally dense, and dimensions of those things could not be explored in one go. Epiphany comes to the rescue for a lot of people for these chance discoveries. So, where from these eureka moment comes is one of them is this. When it is all about your perspective, when you are mostly being able to look boldly inside you and you find out a different perspective to the similar things, to the simple things which is also available to all of the people, but you crave out something different, and that allows you to identify the gaps which only you see, or maybe some people see, but you see a different dimension to that gap, a gap which might not even exist, but you see it because of that inner connect with yourself. And there also is serendipity when we are connecting ourselves with the ecosystem that we belong to, and that also can tell us something about it. And here, it's like epiphany, where perspective was more important. In serendipity, the observation is more important. When we observe things, what happens? We get a different view, different angle to the same thing. So we see it from inside to outside, and in the epiphany part, and from here, we see from outside to inside, and then the dimensions could definitely be very, very different. And that could lead to the chance discovery of this thing. And one of them could definitely be your eureka moment, and this is why we need to be connecting the outer world with the inner one more often. What happened here is, even if though we get the observation right, we have the perspectives drawn correct, why is it not that we get the answer to the questions which can solve a problem or fill the gap? Albert Einstein, once he said that if he's given 1 hour to solve a problem, and the solution to the problem actually concerns his life, and his life could be absolutely dependent on that solution to the problem. He said that if he gets that 1 hour, he will be spending 55 minutes of that 1 hour in phrasing the right question. And only because he is able to phrase the right question, he will be finding the solution in the last 5 minutes. And it is all about questioning correctly. The right questions definitely put into right perspective could identify the right solutions definitely. Now what happens here is, we need to be understanding the context of something. And the context could be in a very small part of the problem. The whole problem definitely could not be addressed to, but a part of the problem which is needed to be addressed to. And only when we address to that peculiar part of the problem, we might get the right question into the context. And if we have the right context, we can fill in desired and the derived content into it to get a right concept out of it. So why an idea will become a reality is the context getting converted into concept, and when the right contents are getting filled in. Well, how to do this? When you talk about bringing the idea into reality, there is a long process, and I would like speaking something on that process, which I've been doing with my students, of course, is to collect ideas. Now what happens if I have to talk about a computer? If I have to solve a problem concerning a computer, what I do is I leave myself in a cocoon which only thinks about computers. It is definitely not right. So I need to be collecting ideas from everywhere, from all walks of life. And I don't know, since my mind is conceptualizing it, it may not be happening because of the outer connect of things, but it may be happening because of an inner voice raising more questions, and that thing is definitely something that need to be put in perspective. And what happens? You need to collect all the ideas. If I'm talking about computers, but I'm getting something about mangoes, I need to be like definitely collecting that too. Now this collection is very important. Ideas are born in isolation, and ideas also die in isolation most of the times. So what we need to do is to scribble every single thing that comes in connection with those ideas that I'm collecting. Or even if it is definitely distant apart from the collection point of view, we need to scribble it down. Why? Because if ideas are savored, it is only going to be done if you write it out. We need to be observing whatever we have written. And since my mind has conceptualized something on that scribbled piece of paper, I need to be drawing the connect between these things. Albert Einstein, I mean, all those people, in fact, I named him, and how many discoveries he has done, how many things he has come up with. And most of the people, in fact, they have agreed upon one fact, that they were discovering something else, and something else came out, in fact, before the main discovery was done or addressed to. So, when we observe something, it is not what we look at. We may see at things, we may look at things, we may define a problem in our own ways. The observation would be needing somebody else's eyes to be addressed, somebody else's eyes. So, I have to put myself in somebody else's shoes and look at the same problem to get that observation correct and broad. We need to pursue. If you're not sure about whether your ideas are pumping enough blood in your heart to get those oxygens in mind, you need to be understanding that whether you're following your passion or not. So this is one point where you need to disconnect with something, otherwise you'll be wasting time. But if you're passionate about what you're talking about, what we are writing about, what we are dealing with, then definitely it could be delayed but not denied unless you pursue it out for some time. Very important, if you pursue your ideas further and it is not dying its own natural death, you need to be understanding that you need to share your ideas. When I talk about sharing the ideas, people always identify the people who are like-minded to be sharing the ideas with. No, this is absolutely a wrong phenomenon. You need to be sharing your ideas with diverse group of people, and the diversity adds more colors to your ideas. We are always shy, we are always again shelled in our own senses that if I discuss this thing with a doctor, he might be absolutely not understanding. I have a doctor and he understands everything. So we need to understand that we need to be sharing this thing diversely with diverse people of diverse background and diverse understandings to get a different point of view, something that I might be missing because of my inner connect not being that deep. We need to plan. Now, what happens with the plan? The wrong thing is that we always optimize a plan right in the start of, in the helm of something. When we optimize a plan and we are so much concretely driven to that plan, and we never see that while we were moving out on that plan, there was a parallel angle that was getting created alongside. And since we outlook that thing, absolutely look out on those things outside the periphery, what happens here is we never understand that there was a plan B that I should have initiated right from the beginning. Sometimes it is right from the beginning, sometimes it just emerges out of nowhere. You wanted to do things, you travel so far, and there is a different line of action that your mind will be telling you to do, and you should be tracking on that plan, in fact, at that point of time. You need to develop ideas. When you're going ahead with the plan, you need to nurture it out. You need to develop it out. Now, development is easier said than done. How would you develop is something that by this time, your mind itself will tell you. And why? Because you are into it. And once you are into something, definitely a mother need not be told how her child need to be reared. So this is, by utilizing all the resources which she has, she does that. And you need to be doing with this particular idea of yours, which is just about to get shape. And once you realize that it has taken shape, you need to release. There is a problem with almost 70% of the ideas that could not get culminated into a sustainable idea just because the release time is dysfunction. And you don't know when to release the idea. So, whom to release with, what is the platform on which you should release your idea is also an important thing that you need to be understanding. You're in Varanasi right now. Some of the people are from outside and mostly they're from within Varanasi itself. We are the oldest living city. So when Mark Twain, the great Mark Twain, when he visited this city, he said that this is a city which is older than history, older than culture, older than religion, and twice as old as all of them put together. Now, what he mentioned was the age of the city, which subsequently is around 4,000 plus years. Here I have written the oldest living city. What brings life? What has brought life? Because if a city is 4,000 years old, definitely there has been an evolution par excellence. But was this evolution and the trajectories of those evolutions seen is something which we need to understand with a new gift that the city has got. The city was always a living city because of three major things. Because it is a spiritual city, it is a city of music, and it is a city of diverse things, one of which is yoga. And some people date the originator of yoga, Maharshi Patanjali, with the city. So what some people, some NGOs and the district administration, one of which is here in fact, I think Praveenji is here, he was also in that team. They decided to collate all these ideas together and to create an extravaganza out of it. And what blessing the city has got and the rest of the world to see how the city created this idea of coming it al fresco and absolutely free of cost gratis. So they started with something called as Subah Banaras, which started some 500 plus days back, and it has brought these three things, the spirituality along with, so it can give you a spiritual goosebump if you endorse to what is happening there. And if you see the second picture, which is all about all the gifted musicians being a part of that program, and of course hundreds of people and sometimes thousands of people, including the foreigners, who actually become a part of this when they learn how to experiment with yoga and to sustain it. But the best part is not only what this thing showcased. The best part is there were literally thousands of artists with some kind of thing to showcase, whether it is vocal or instrumental, lying in the city in absolute oblivion. What this simple idea brought that since last 500 and some days in the city, during this showcasing of Subah Banaras, every day read and unquote that actually I'm doing as a Banarsi, as a person from the city. Every day there is a new artist, and as if there is no tomorrow, the artists keep on coming, and that's a great gift to them, because they are being showcasing their ideas to the world and their talent to the world. Swagrihe pujyate murkha, swagrame pujyate prabhu, swadeshe pujyate raja, vidwan sarvas pujyate. Now this is something which comes from the old scriptures, and it simply says that even an imbecile will be celebrated in his own town. The Lord gets worshipped in his own land. The king gets respected in his own country. But if you have an idea which can be culminated into a knowledge form, you will be respected and honored by the whole world. And if ever we thought, would we be ever remembered by the world in the coming times, it is only because you will be remembered, but only because your ideas are worth sharing, because your ideas are changing lives. Thank you.